How to create a nonogram puzzle in Affinity Designer. Hi, Kerry Hinchliffe here from Dream Creator Bee, and welcome to my channel. So a while back I was asked if you could create nonograms in Affinity Designer or Affinity Publisher. Now I didn't know the answer to that, so I said let me have a look. So that's what I've been doing. I've been having a look, experimenting and trying. So what are nonograms? Well, nonograms are logical puzzles. Basically, I've had a look at Wikipedia. So they are called different names in different countries, like Hanyi. I think that's the correct pronunciation, but somebody may correct me on that. Paint by numbers, gridlers, pick-a-picks, and pick-cross. Basically, it's a logical puzzle where you are given a set of numbers in basically grids, and these grids can be 5 by 5, 6 by 6, 7 by 7, 8 by 8, 9 by 9, 10 by 10, all the way going up to as big as you want, I suppose. There's a little animation that's going to walk you through how these are solved, because you need to know how to solve them in order to create them, because you need to know where you're going to put your numbers. Now, lots of people buy compilers, puzzle software to create this, but if you don't want to invest in those because you think, well, I need to see if the book will work on KDP or as printables, this is the way of doing it, is actually going in to any software that can give you lines and grids and things like that to create this. Now, me personally would probably not create it in Affinity Designer or Affinity Photo. If I was doing this, I'd probably have gone straight into Affinity Publisher. But I was asked if it could be done in Affinity Designer, so that's what I'm going to show you. So check the other video out. Here's an example of a nonogram that I created earlier in Affinity Designer. Looking at the grid, we can see that it is an 8 by 8 grid. If you look at the top of the columns, you'll see that there are numbers that are giving us our clues, and then on the rows you can also see different numbers that are giving us our clues as well, and these come in different sets. So the easiest part to start on this actual grid is where we can actually see on the columns at the top there are 2 number 8s. Now that means that we need to fill in every single cell going down those 2 columns. So they are now all filled in, and then we need to go to our next stage, which is the easiest to see is actually our first row. It says there that we only need 2 cells filled in. Well, they're already filled in. So the easiest way to remember that we've already done that one is to put crosses in the blank cells. And then if you also look further down, you'll see there's 2 more rows that have also got just the number 2. So again, fill in the crosses where those are blank. And then if we look at the second row, we can also see that we've also filled in the first sets of cells, which is those 2, but we've still got 1 number that is missing, and we don't know what else to fill in, but we know it's not in the first section, so we can cross out those first 3 cells in that second row, so you can see that that's what's been done. Then again, we're going to look at the rows, and we can see there's a single number on its own, which is number 5. And we can see we've already got 2 cells filled in, and we already know that it must come in the first section. So we'll fill in those 3 blank cells that's in the first section. So then still remaining on that row, we can then go and fill in the remaining cells with crosses, because they don't need to be filled in because we've already got our 5 colouring shading. Then another simple bit is looking at the top columns. We can see the first ones, And we already have those first ones filled in. We've already filled those cells. So again, just go down and fill it in all your crosses. And then we can see that again, the first column, number 4, we've already got one filled in and others already crossed out. So we know they are not the ones to fill in, but we've got 3 empty ones. And if we fill those 3 empty cells, they will all add up to 4. So we've got our first part of our image. Then the last remaining row, we've already got 1 cell filled in, and then we've also got 2 cells filled in, but we require 5 here. So the only bits that's left is the 3 cells. So we need to go along and fill those 3 cells. Now it doesn't say 2 here, because they're all consecutive, they're all next to one another. So we know that that's a 5 and not a 2. So go in and fill those ones in. Then our last 3 remaining numbers, our last like 6 cells, we can see that the 2 columns that have 1s have already got theirs filled in. So go and fill those empty blanks with crosses again, so you know that you filled them in. And then our final one requires us to have 4 cells shaded, and so far we've only got 1, so fill in the remaining blanks. And that is our simple nonogram. That's actually a simple cactus, and it's an 8x8 grid. So now you've seen how it actually works. Let's dive into Affinity Designer, where we'll start setting up our grids so that we can start creating our own nonograms. So now I've explained how you go about solving a nonogram, and that was just a simple nonogram that was created in Affinity Designer. So this is Affinity Designer version 2. I have updated it, so make sure you're updated so that you're... So here we are in Affinity Designer. I haven't actually opened up the software. So we'll go File and New, and then from here we're going to choose Letter. Now it doesn't actually matter what size you choose for your puzzle, because I'm going to teach you a way of exporting both the solution and the puzzle as separate identities, basically separate images, so that you can compile them into your book without, because you need to see both at the same time while you're creating them. So I'm going to choose Letter. I'm going to make sure it's portrait. I'm not bothered about anything else, except I'm going to take the margin off, because I'm not bothered about it. I just don't need it in this scenario. So I'm going to click Create. And I've got a blank page. Now, this is not going to help me set things out. I need a grid, something to direct me, something to give me a clue of where I'm putting my lines so that I can work out what I'm doing. So I'm going to go to View, and you'll see a thing here that says Show Grid. So I'm going to click on that. And the grid is a bit too big. I need to reduce that in size. So that's probably an inch each square there. So I'm going to go back to View, and you'll see that there is an option that says Grid and Axes. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to go to Basic here. So again, you can see Basic. I'm going to make sure that's selected. And again, we can see spacing is 1 inch and the divisions are 1. Well, we want to keep that 1. And I'm going to knock it down to 0.333 because it just makes a decent cell size. And that's the reason why I've chosen. And then I'm going to make sure I press Enter. And you'll see that the grid has now changed, that we got a lot smaller. So that's what we basically need to do. Now, we're only going to use one tool to create this whole thing. Well, 2 tools maybe. We're going to use the pen tool, which is this one here, because that's going to draw our lines. And we will, when we start creating our actual puzzle, be using the rectangle. So we'll create the solution before we create the puzzle. I know it's a bit weird, but this is the way I'm doing it to show you how. So, but first of all, we're going to create a grid, and then we're going to export that grid as a template so that you can keep reusing that template without redrawing it. So if you wanted to create different templates, like an 8x8, a 10x10, a 9x9, a 7x7, you can go along and create a pile of those, put them in a folder, and you have got your grid sizes. So that you only need to do this exercise once with regards to creating your first grid. But like I say, create a few grids of different sizes, 5x5, 6x6, 7x7, and you can reuse this one and adjust it and save that as a template. So I'll show you that as well, which is probably the easiest way of doing it. So we're going to create an 8x8 grid, but it's not just going to be 8 squares. We need places where people can put their numbers as well. So I'm going to allow 4 spaces, I think, maybe 5 to be on the sure side, maybe, I don't know, because you can always take them off when you are creating your puzzle. Once you've created your solution, you take off what you need to take off. Okay, so I'm going to use the pen tool. This is going to be the main tool that I use, that pen tool there. So I want to leave enough space at the top. I think I'm going to have 5 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to click on that corner. So I'm going to make sure I've actually selected it, which I haven't. Yep, I'm going to click on that corner. And then I'm going to go 13 across because that gives me my 8 cells and it gives me 5 spare to put my numbers in. And I can change that. I can delete off what I don't want. So I'm going to hold my shift key down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's giving me 8 and my 5. So I clicked on that. Now I've got a stroke on there automatically of 0.7 because that's what I was previously using. So to find your stroke, you go to your color palette and then you click on stroke, or you can go at the top here where you can see stroke here and click on there and maneuver that to whatever thickness you want. So I'm just saying 0.7. You don't need to. You can say 1. See how thick that is. That might be better. Yep. So we'll stick with that. Then I'm going to go to my move tool. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to go onto the line. Take my mouse onto the line. On a Mac, hold the Option button down. On Windows, I think it's the Alt button that you need to hold down and drag that down there. And we're only going to do that once because that is going to put it into like the memory of Affinity Designer. So now I'm going to use the shortcut for duplicating. So you can either go right click duplicate or you can go Command J. And you may have changed this, I don't know, but the default for Affinity is Command J. So Command or Control J if you're on a Windows. Command J then gives me my space. So I need 13 of these as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going a bit off. 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm not happy because it's gone off before it normally stays in. So I'm going to check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 12, 13. Yeah. So I'm going to go curve. I'm going to select all of that curve there. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to align that to the right. And then I'm just going to see if I can align the top. Oh, you didn't want that. Nope, didn't want that either. So I'm going to have to physically move these ones that are not quite right. But that's why you've got the grid, to help you get the exact right thing. Excellent. Right, so they are right now. So I'm going to click on the top curve. I'm going to hold my shift button down, click on the bottom curve, and then I'm going to group these by going Command G or Control G, and I've grouped them. Now you can rename them if you want. So row grid. In fact, we'll do that. Row grid. And then I'm going to duplicate that, Command J. So I'll change that to column grid. Column grid. So we know which one's which. And then I'm going to rotate that. So at the top here, yours might be over here somewhere. I'm going to rotate that grid. And that perfectly fits what we want. But we can't tell where they need to actually do their work. If you look here on this, I've grayed out things where the numbers are going to go and where they need to actually draw. So we're going to do the same. So we need the 8 by 8 bit, and we're going to first of all start with the square shape that should be on your right hand corner. Now you might not have put your cat there, and if you can't see your rectangle or square shape, there's usually a shape, if I can get it without it flashing, with a little drop down arrow. So if you look at that, you can click on that and it'll bring you your options up. Okay, so select your rectangle, and I'm going to go from the bottom here because it's in that bottom corner, and I'm just going to, I want 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And how many have I got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I went too far. So I'm going to bring it in. Yes, 5 number spaces. 5 number spaces. So I'm going to change this rectangle colour. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to change that to white. So that's where we're going to draw things, and I can actually again rename that to draw grid. And it also needs to go underneath my grid there. Now you think, well, it doesn't actually show up, so I might just leave it at the top there for the time being. Then I'm going to get the rectangle tool again, and basically I'm just going to draw out that one there, and this time I'm going to recolor this to like a little grey one. That's it. And then again I'm going to draw that out to there. So that can be column grid. this one row grid. And all three of those I'm going to take and drag down. And then I'm going to group everything here again, because it's just going to help when we bring this back in. So this is 8 by 8 grid puzzle. And I'm going to say puzzle for that one. Okay. So what you can do now is export this file and export as a template. So I'm going to export it, and I'm just going to put it here for now and name it 8 by 8 grid. And what I would do if I was you, I would create a new folder and call it Nonograms. Create, and inside that folder I would call it grids templates, and click create, click save. And then I'm actually going to do the dangerous thing and close this one out. I'm going to click close, and I don't want to save that. I'm then going to open that, what we've just created. Open, file and open. Now I've got to find it. Date added. Nonograms, grid templates. And I'll just double click that. And there we go. It's opened up on a new untitled document. So you have now got a template that you can use, and one that you can drag and change. So we're going to go there. So what's the first thing you need to do? You actually need to design some sort of shape that goes into your grid. So it doesn't matter if we change things now, if we remove a certain amount of numbers or anything like that. So what we're going to create is that cactus that we had in the beginning. And I suggest, if you're looking for puzzles and things, go and get an idea of what you want to create. Just, you know, I'm not showing you genius ones or anything. I have got examples, which I'll show you. I'll show you the 10 by 10 when we've done this one. But what we can do is we can create a cactus. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to make it easy so that it's easily to be solved for us, basically. So again, we're going to choose our rectangle, and we're going to change our shape. Not that one. We're going to actually go inside this, and we'll create new. So I'm just going to draw in first. My first one. I'm just going to zoom in so I can see what I'm actually doing. And I'm going to draw here. And you're going to say, well, I can't really see that, Carrie. That's fine. I'm just going to change that to black. So we've got our first one. And I'm going to Command J. And that's just going on top there. So in fact, I could have gone on the Move tool. And then Option down. Let it snap, and I've got my snapping on as well, so that should help. Command J and go all the way down, and then I'm gonna Option just there to drag that on. That has snapped, but if I do Command J, it's going to go across, so I don't want that. So again, I'm going to go Option there. Now I'll do Command J. So it gives me all the way down. And then I'm going to choose where to put my arm. So this might not be the exact same as you saw in the previous bit. So I'm going to draw out on there, change to my Move tool, hold my Option or my Alt button down, drag, and Command J, and then Option and Command J and J, and then I'm going to do the same up here. I'm going to hold Option down, drag, then Command J, and then hold Option or Alt, drag, and then Command J. And that is our first image. So I'm going to go to the top of the first rectangle. I'm going to hold the Shift button down. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom of that rectangle, and I'm going to Command G. And here I'm actually going to write solution. So you start with your picture first instead of writing in your numbers. So again, because it's a simple one, we know that going down is 4. So we can start with our rows, doing columns. So I'm going to use the artistic text tool here. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to just draw this out to the size of the cell, and I'm going to press 4. Now I can actually reduce that a little bit and get it into the center where I want it to be. And I may come down a bit. I'm using my keyboard to do this. So we've got 4 there. And what I'm going to do is Option and drag out 4 there, because we know that's a 4 already. Then I'm going to Option and drag that out to there, and I'm going to double click on it, change that to a 1, because there's only one cell shaded in here. So that's how you're doing that. And then again, I'm going to hold Option down. I'm going to make sure my Move tool is selected. So I'm go to V. Right, and then Option or Alt, drag that there. And again to here. And to there. That one is not in alignment. There we go. And then I'm going to hold Option and just drag that one out. And I'm going to change that to 8 because all 8 are filled in. Select my Move tool and hold Option down there. Okay, so that's the first one done. The first column's done. Now we need to do the rows. So again, I can just hold Option and drag here. And I know I only need one number because I've only got one set that's coloured in, and it's 2. So I'm going to go 2. And then I'm going to hold Option down and drag here. Now this is different. I'm going to move this across because this 2, there is 2 coloured in, but there's also a separate 1. So we tell them that there is a set of 2, which is this 2 here, that's highlighted, and then a set of 1. So we've got that 2 there. And there's a few 2s. There's 2s down here. There's a 2 down here. And this 2 can stay here as well. So I'm going to Option, drag down. We've got a 2 there. We've got a 2 here. Drag it down. I'll come back and resort that. Now here we've got no 2. This is actually a 5 because it's all consecutive. It's all consecutively coloured in. So it's not a 2, it's a 5. Same with the next one down. But the bottom ones are all 2s. But because there's no other sets, we need to put them here. right at the end, basically. So there is a method. You need to stick to the rules, basically, of how it's done. Else nobody could solve it if you didn't stick to the rules. So I can maneuver all three of these at once because they're all slightly out. And there we go. So that's 2's done. Now this one's a 1, so I'm going to take that one at the top. I'm going to hold the Option or the Alt button down. I'm saying Alt, it might not be on Windows. Try it and see who it is. And then this one is over here. And this one is over here. So every time I'm doing this dragging, you'll see that it's the Alt button or the Option button. Again, here. Here. And then I've got 1 here, and then I've got a 5. So I'm going to go put that one there. This one hasn't got a 1 at all. Okay, I haven't got a 5, so I'm going to go and drag that one across. Double click in it, change it to 5, then go back to my Move tool, and then Alt or Option, and drag down a 5. That is our puzzle done. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to group all of these numbers here. So it's a group. And I want to put them inside that puzzle there. Now what I can do is tidy up and actually get rid of all these extra lines if you want to make it neat. And the way you do that is just go into columns here and then tap to find out where those extra lines are. And you can click there. So it's just those 2. And instead of deleting them, just take the visual off so that they are no longer visible, and then go into your row grid, and they were at the top, I think. Yeah, again at the bottom, I mean. So take those, and I think there's one more. That's fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that grid. In fact, no, I'm not. I'm going to click on these lines here. So I am going to click on there, on that grid, and drag them down on that column grid. And then I'm going to click on that one, drag them across, and then I'm going to drag that there, and then I'm just going to drag that. So it's made it all nice and neat, and then just click on the rectangle. So I don't need to find my layers, I just need to click on them, which is a quicker way. So that is your first bit done. So I'm going to drag that up here, and inside, in fact, I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to go Command J and drag it, that one down. Just tidy it up, put it all on the grid. And I want to make sure the puzzle's at the top, and then the solution. So I'm going to go inside the puzzle, and where it says solution on, hang on, let me go back. That's the puzzle. This one's the solution. I'm going to rename this one solution because it's showing the solution. And this one, I'm going to go inside it and just check the toggle visibility off. So that little circle takes it off. And then at the top of each one, I'm going to make sure I'm actually inside the groups as well, because I need to be inside the groups to do the next stage. So I'm going to get that and go puzzle 1. So make sure you name each puzzle and each solution so that you know which one's which. And then this one, I am going to again use word art, drag that out and type solution 1. So that's in the right group. Puzzle 1 is not, so I'm just going to, in fact that wasn't, so I'm going to drag solution into there, and puzzle I'm going to drag into puzzle. So that's why it's important to name everything. Then I'm going to make sure that puzzle is selected. In fact, I'm going to save this file, save as, so I've got it to come back to. I'm in my Nonograms folder and I want to create a new folder, and I can put book 1, create. In fact, I wanted that in its own section. I'll tidy it up just now. But anyway, in fact, no, cancel. I'm going to go file, save. I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on to Nonograms, so that Nonograms is selected. New folder, book 1, create. And inside that book 1, I'm going to put working files. I'm going to click create, and here I'm going to put puzzle 1. So if I find an error, I can always come back and correct it. Save. Then what I'm going to do is make sure that this is highlighted. And I'm going to file and export as a PNG, and where it says area, I'm going to change that to selection only. So that gives me my puzzle 1. I'm going to export that, and again I'm going to go into Nonograms. I'm going to go into book 1, and then I'm going to go new folder, and this one's going to be puzzle images. I'm going to click create, save. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the solution, file. So make sure I highlight solution, file, export, and again, make sure it's PNG, make sure it's selection only, export. And this time I'm going to go back to book 1. In fact, no, puzzle images, no, book 1, new folder, and I'm going to go solution images and create. And I'm going to call that solution 1. Save. And that is how we go about preparing our grids and our solution. So if I open up a Blue Peter version, which is, here's what I did earlier, I'm going to open this, open with, there we go. So this is a 10 by 10 one that I created. Same thing, I've done all the same things. I haven't put the text there for inside there. So what I can do is, again, this time call it puzzle 2, even though it says 1 on mine. And I can drag that in there. So that's inside. And what I can do is option, drag it there, change that to solution 2, and then drag that inside solution there. Highlight that again, file, export. Everything's chosen again, export. And this time, puzzle, change the name to puzzle 2, save, click on solution 2, file, export. Again, selection only, export. Make sure I'm in the solution image and change that to solution 2 and save. And that is how you go about changing how you basically create your nonogram in Affinity Designer. So you can go and get some ideas you can go off the web, like choose flowers, bees, boats, cars, anything that you think you can fit into a grid. So you can do a simpler cat that's only in a 9x9 or a 7x7, a dog, a hat, anything that is nice and simple. If you're aiming it at kids, or you can aim it at adults, but that is the way you go about doing it. So I'll create another video showing you how to bulk upload into Affinity Publisher, and another video how to bulk upload into Canva. So that will help you create your books a bit quicker. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed already, why not subscribe? See you in the next video. Bye!